Hey everybody, well, we are here again with our viewer series where viewers ask me three questions, and we have a viewer from every state that we are having ask me three questions. And today we have Jodie from Mississippi, and she is a history professor. What is your favorite kind of area of history to teach about?
Probably French colonialism. I really like that French and Spanish colonialism. I've done a lot of research that period along the Gulf Coast area. So
Okay.
I've got some questions for you um, along that period that I think you could really help
Oh
with. So
my.
I'm excited about that.
Oh boy, you're gonna you're gonna test knowledge. I feel like I don't.
No, it's not a quiz or anything.
I will fail.
No.
Well, what's your first question for me?
Okay, well, the first question, and I should probably preface these with part of the stuff that I've researched is the tour industry. And pretty much just in a nutshell, what that is if you go to a cemetery tour or a battlefield tour or something like that, are they giving you accurate information?
Oh, that's a really good question.
And by and large, my research has shown no. There are some good people out there, but there are a lot of really bad actors in the field. And so I've got a few questions, maybe some you could clear up. So
Okay.
the first one is, and this was on a really bad tour I saw. The tour guide said that it was traditional to walk backward from out of a cemetery. Have you ever heard that before?
Never heard that, but there's so many folklore wives' tales. I mean, I think many people can remember riding on a bus, like a high school bus going to a basketball game or something, and when you pass the cemetery, you have to lift your feet or else the spirits can enter you. And so you all lift your feet. So I feel like there may be some folklore things along the way that maybe died out, not to, pun the word, but that might have used to be a thing where exit backwards or else maybe I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that kind of.
Yeah. I haven't found anything else. And to be honest with this particular person, I had a feeling that they thought, well, I've already swindled people out of $30. Let me see what else I can get away with.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
making all these people walk backwards out of the cemetery.
Well, it sounds like fun. I think sometimes on tours you have to mix some entertainment value with
You do.
like some of the information, especially maybe if it's not an exciting spot or
Yeah.
they just need to crank it up. So I could see maybe that happening, that maybe if it wasn't even a thing. Um, yeah, I'll have to look into see if that was ever an actual kind of thing that was going on.
I'm kind of interested because I would fall over myself if I walked out of the cemetery backwards. And in a lot of cemeteries, like in New Orleans, you walk out backwards, you're walking into traffic. So
Yeah,
that's
it
not a
wouldn't be
good
very,
thing.
it wouldn't be
I heard
safe.
that.
But, I also see that like thinking, so we have one cemetery in town. There's only one road and it's a dead end. So when you go in, you have to go out backwards. So I could almost see some of these old cemeteries that were maybe really small that didn't have two entrances or anything. If you pulled your buggy in, there's no space to turn around, that maybe you had to exit like out of function, that maybe
Hmm.
you had to exit backwards. So maybe not even, oh, the spirits will get you or something, that maybe just you went in and you had to back out when you went. Not so much walking, but that maybe you had to back your carriage out or I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that one, but a few things are kind of going through my mind as we talk about it.
I never thought about that, but that would make sense that,
Yeah.
sometimes
And I,
just little things like that start out of, like you said, function.
right. All right. What's number two? I'm interested here now.
Okay, number two, I'm sure you may have heard a lot of the family cemeteries along the Gulf Coast where you have multiple family members buried together above ground. You've probably heard that it was customary to put one family member in, after they've died, of course, put a family member in. And the tomb was sealed for a year and a day before somebody else could be buried in it. So if somebody else passed away in that time, they had the temporary tombs where they were sealed for a year and a day until their ashes could be moved. And I've heard a couple of different stories why. One was that was the traditional Catholic mourning period of the time, a year, and you had to add the extra day because you wouldn't want to open up the tomb on the last day of mourning. Another was because of the pandemics, that people felt like it took a year and a day for the disease to go away. And that's why I was kind of curious that I know there are above ground tombs in other parts of the country. Are there regulations on how long you have to leave a body shut in there?
I have never encountered or heard of anything like that. So that to me is so fascinating that I want to dive into some of that history. Some of that stuff, like Caitlin, Dottie, she is so versed in history and all of that because that's what she studied in college and such. And so some of that I'm like, ooh, does she have a video on this I can like check out?
She has a really good one on the New Orleans tombs, but I don't think she really went into that
time frame. I'm gonna have to like do some history digging. I think these are areas that like I have never heard about that.
Okay.
So I think that's really fascinating and would love to know. So these are the things that as I'm doing videos, my knowledge base, and I'm learning just as much as I think everybody else because I'm tapping into all these different things that are maybe regional or cultural or whatever they are, things that don't even exist anymore that we can tap into. So I love, that's going to be fun. I'll have to do a video on that even.
I believe that's still the regulation even to this day. And it may be by this point, just because the bodies cremate for a year in those tombs through full summer cycle. So that may be the modern reason, but I would be kind of interested in the historical reason. But the reason I was asking, to me, if it was a pandemic thing or a religious thing, we would know that based on where it happens in other places. Like, if South Carolina does this, it's a pandemic thing, or if, a heavily Catholic part of the United States, like Maryland, if they have these same rules, we know it was their religious custom.
You would hear it other areas, not just in one location, I would believe. I'm sure like maybe it is the heat. Maybe they feel like 1 year gives the body enough time to go through the
whole cycle of a summer.
That maybe
I know they do it now. I was just kind of curious, like, how did they start that? Because obviously, the custom was brought over from Spain. The French would inter the bodies, and of course that caused a lot of problems because they sometimes would come back up when it flooded. But the Spanish brought it over, and it kind of became the fashionable thing. And but how do you know that the bodies are supposed to be in that long if you've never buried anybody before? So it seems like it would have been like another custom they started, and then they realized, this is
why. I'm gonna have to I'll check with some funeral directors down in that area that I know, and maybe see if they have knowledge base on some of the history of that as well. And if try and get in touch with maybe a cemetery down there and see, hey, if you're still doing this, why are you doing this? Is it just because it's what you've always done? Or do you really have a reason? So we will definitely find some answers on that.
Okay. Well, I hate to throw wild ones out there, but I really would I wondered if,
these are amazing questions that will find answers and educate everybody because.
Oh, good.
I think these are great.
Sometimes, if it happens in another part of the country, then, that's why it happens there. It's not just something people made up, because people make up some pretty wild ones in the cemetery.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, what's your third question? Can I answer any of them?
Well, you've done I mean, this has been really informative. So yeah, you've answered all of them for me. The last one is, you may be familiar with the custom of All Saints Day. And that's kind of a big, I hate to say a big deal, but it's a bigger custom in the Gulf Coast region than other parts of the country.
Okay.
I think it's kind of cool that that's why the New Orleans Saints have their name, because they were franchised or contracted or whatever the NFL calls it on All Saints Day. So they got the name the Saints.
Oh, I did not
So
know that.
it's kind of,
Teach us,
it's,
Jodie. Teach us, because
oh
you're
no, I'm
learning
gonna ask you
vocabulary.
questions. But I mean, that's just my football trivia for
That's
today.
awesome.
But it's kind of a cool thing. But other parts of the country, I don't know why it kind of didn't take off. And I wanted to ask, because it seems to be bigger in places like Latin America. Do you think the new immigrants coming in or may revive this custom?
I think it's all about, kind of what you were brought up with. Just like our newer generations don't visit cemeteries, where my grandpa's generation on Memorial Day
Right.
went to the cemetery beforehand, and you cleaned up graves and you put flowers. And people my age do not do that very often.
Right.
Unless you were really trained by I say trained, but you did that with your family over the years, and that became a part of what you did. And I think it's kind of the same thing. If it wasn't part of your upbringing as much, it doesn't come to the new world with you, essentially. And if none of your family's here, then you really can't.
Right. Grandpa's not buried here, so.
You can't really go and do those things. I know there is, and I'm trying to think which group. When I visited Holy Sepulchre Cemetery and Mausoleums over on the east side of the state, there was one group that's buried there. And I'm trying to think if it was from Afghanistan or Iran or something. And they have one day a year that they all come to the cemetery, and they gather and they spend the day there. And kind of like we used to, if you look in the history of even America, like you used to go and have picnics at the cemetery, and it was a big thing to do. I want to say it was even Sundays, like you went and had picnics at the cemetery, and, shared space with your family that had already passed. And so there's all these cultural things that have fallen to the wayside as what we do for our loved ones that died has changed, because here we cremate and never have a service and put them on a shelf, and so a lot of our reverence for the dead has gone to the wayside, which is so sad if you think about it. Like, just 5 minutes before they died, they were the super uber important person. And then the moment they died, it's like, we can just cremate them and we don't need to do anything. And I don't get that mentality. And so I really respect and love cultures that have, like the All Saints Day, and have these moments where they dive in, because we have Memorial Day. And, even though Memorial Day is not about like our death, like our family that's died, it's more about service and everything. But even on Memorial Day, people don't go out to the graves anymore. So I like the ritual of it and the remembrance of it and stuff. But I think it will go by the wayside as generations pass, especially when you remove the generation from the area that's going to be dominant in it. So I would imagine as people move away from, even, in New Orleans and everywhere that it might be dominant, they're not going to do those same traditions for the most part. There's going to be people that maybe always do them, but it'll fall to the wayside like it has everywhere else, I would think.
That does make sense. I mean, why would you go to the cemetery if no one knew was buried there? If you have no family there, you have no reason to go. So your children have no reason to go. So they're going to start their own customs whenever you pass away.
Right. I think as immigration and as families became more nomadic, is that the word, where we travel so much, you know, even now, that's why a lot of people choose cremation. They don't want to place someone in one spot when they know their family's going to be moving other areas. And I think that's why a lot of graves don't get taken care of, because maybe mom and dad died when you were, you know, in your teens, and you move away and you never come back to that space that they are buried at. So there's nobody there to take care of that grave, and grandma and grandpa's grave, and everybody else's grave. And so because there's nobody in actually the location, that none of that takes place. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well, because some of these cultures in some countries, like, you don't move away.
Right.
Move away is not something you do. Like, you grow up in your village, your town, your city, you stay there. You marry a local person, you go to school locally, you work locally, your family's there, you do a lot with your family.
Right.
Parents move in with you when they get older. You take care of your grandparents. It's much more this community that doesn't change. But here we go everywhere, and spread out everywhere. And I think that has changed a lot of that custom as well over time.
That's something I really haven't thought about. So I'm glad I asked you, because it explains everything. And I hate that the custom of All Saints Day has kind of fallen away. I mean,
Yeah.
when you go to the cemeteries now, it's a lot of elderly people, retired people. They do like a memorial to the Battle of New Orleans on All Saints Day in the cemetery, and it's just mostly, retired ladies, unless you're fortunate enough to have a lot of money to be able to spend the whole day. Most working moms can't afford to have a babysitter and take off work and all that for All Saints Day. So maybe some very wealthy people, or people with just really flexible schedules, which, like the retired people, they're the people that keep it up. Most people, you can't take a random weekday off to go to the cemetery.
Yes. There's many other things people would rather spend that day on.
Right.
Sadly. But
it
is an interesting, I can see why you enjoy that part of history, because there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of different cultures that kind of culminate in that one area. And then the death ritual behind everything is so diverse and very defined down there, completely different than other places.
It is. And that's why I wish more historians would consult with funeral directors and people like that, because most people go to New Orleans and all they want to do is battlefield tours, cemetery tours, ghost tours. All of those, you need input from a funeral director for that. If you really want to do it well.
And I wonder how much they get that.
Well, you get to hear some crazy stories from people who just did not want to do their research and they just made stuff up. So.
Oh no.
Yeah, some of them do. Some of them really make up crazy stories. So
you're in the back going, bull crap.
Yeah, exactly. Jane and I once had to leave a tour because we were laughing too hard.
Oh no. That would be kind of fun though. Like when you and you go and you're like, no.
Yeah. It
was crazy. That's fun. Yeah. Well, thank you. These were
no problem.
I can't wait to dive into trying to figure out the full answers, or at least more answer to some of these questions.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope they aren't. I hope I didn't just throw you for a curveball or anything.
No, I think those are really
would be fun.
They're good. I hate to always say I'll find the answer later, but as I'm doing these videos, as people know, I put the information at the end of the video and kind of do a follow-up, so everything's all together. But it's nice to be challenged. It's nice to learn about something new and to think about something new. And I don't know, it's kind of like we're prosing on what the answers might be. So that's kind of fun as well to see if we're right.
Right, exactly. Well, I know you probably get tired of being asked about putting diapers on people all day. So.
Some of the same questions. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Jodie.
it. I was going to say, my aunt passed away several months ago, actually, and the stuff you have had on your channel was really helpful because we were
Oh, thank you.
it was kind of unexpected, and a lot of people just didn't know what to do. So the things you have out there are really helpful.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm trying. Like
You're doing a great job.
that's the point. Thank you. That really, like, that's good. Reinforcement helps me keep going and doing stuff. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thanks guys for watching, and check out our next viewer question and answer video next Sunday. See you guys later. Bye.